The movie begins in 1990, introducing two siblings, Michelle and Chris. Chris was highly intelligent and took a test at a young age that could guarantee him direct admission to college. After the test, as they were leaving, the siblings were stopped by Army officers. Chris was wearing a shirt with the image of Cosmo Robot, showing his interest in robots. Next, we meet a scientist named Ethan, who strongly disliked robots. Years before, robots were created to help humans. However, when they broke down or faced problems, humans would just discard them. After enduring years of mistreatment, the robots became tired of it and formed their own alliance to demand respect. Their leader, Peanut, led the robots in their rebellion. Humans didn't like this, and a war between the robots and humans started. As things escalated, the humans continued their harsh treatment of robots, leading to full-scale war. Humans were eventually banned from using robots or keeping them in their homes. The world was on the brink of disaster. During the war, a military officer named Evans reported to his superiors that the robots were overpowering humans because they never got tired. Humans were losing when scientist Ethan came up with a solution, a new technology called neurotech. Ethan created Neurocaster robots, which humans could control with their brains through a special helmet. Using this new technology, humans were able to fight back, controlling the Neurocasters in the war. These robots didn't get tired like the humans, and within weeks, the humans won the war. Major Mark, who killed the most robots, received an award. After the war, humans made an agreement with the robots. Instead of destroying them, they would imprison the robots in a facility. As time passed, Ethan improved his technology. He divided the human brain into two parts and connected both to a Neurocaster, allowing one person to control two robots at once. This advanced version of neurotech made life easier for humans. People could also use one part of their brain for the Neurocaster and the other for enjoying life. The technology became so popular that it was taught in schools and almost everyone used it. Now the story shifts to 1994, where Michelle is living with her foster dad. At school, all the students use neuro helmets, but Michelle refuses. She prefers to stay human and not rely on technology. Because she doesn't follow the rules, she is called to the principal's office. The principal tells Michelle that if she continues to disobey, he'll have to inform her foster mom. Michelle responds by telling him that her entire family died in an accident. The principal feels bad for her and suggests she try neurotherapy, which could help her feel better. However, Michelle dislikes technology and anything artificial. In a flashback, Michelle recalls the day of the accident. A deer ran in front of her car, and while trying to avoid it, she crashed. She was severely injured, and her condition was critical. Michelle woke up in a hospital where she saw a doctor wearing glasses. She suddenly snapped out of the dream and opened her eyes, only to feel that someone was sneaking into her house. In a panic, she hid under her bed. The intruder, a Cosmo robot, found her by lifting the bed. When Michelle threatened to kill it, the robot pointed to her head and asked her to connect a wire. She did, and the robot spoke, revealing, "I am your brother." Before she could respond, the robot suddenly collapsed. Michelle's foster father entered and attacked the robot. Since robots were banned from being kept by humans, he demanded Michelle remove the robot from the house. Michelle defended the robot, blaming her foster father's carelessness for its entry. In a fit of anger, her foster father attacked Michelle, which caused the robot to defend her and knock him into a wall. After her foster father was about to call the police, Michelle knocked him unconscious, then left with the Cosmo robot. As they traveled, Michelle asked the robot why it called itself her brother and if her brother's consciousness was inside it. The robot confirmed, and Michelle got emotional, asking where her brother's body was. The robot gestured toward a doctor, the same doctor who had told Michelle that her brother Chris had died. The robot revealed that the doctor knew more about Chris's body, and they headed to a place marked on the map. Along the way, they encountered a man named Evans. He had previously been a military officer who had reported that humans were losing the war to robots. Now he was retired and dealing in illegal weapons. Evans handed a gun to a Neurocaster robot, but the robot refused to accept payment. Instead, it threatened him. Before the robot could harm Evans, it was disabled by another robot, Evans' personal robot, who he had illegally kept. Michelle and the Cosmo robot took advantage of the situation and sneaked into the truck where Evans stored the disabled robot. They knew this truck would take them closer to the robot facility. Meanwhile, Michelle's foster father had reported to the police that she was harboring the Cosmo robot, prompting the government to hire Mark, an expert in killing robots, to track them down. The truck stopped at Evans' house, which was connected to the robot facility. As Michelle and the Cosmo robot disembarked, they were confronted by Evans, who held them at gunpoint. Michelle explained that she only wanted to access the facility, which Evans worked with to buy and sell items from inside. Evans warned her that it was dangerous, and if she wanted to go there, she should leave. Just as they were talking, Evans noticed someone climbing on top of them. Mark's Neurocaster robot appeared, demanding to know where the robots were. Evans lied, claiming Michelle was his sister and that there were no robots. Mark didn't believe him and attacked. The robots, angry at the attack, retaliated, and Michelle, seeing an opportunity, turned off the robot switches. The group ran, hiding Mark's Neurocaster robot among the debris. Once they were safe, Evans, furious, realized there was no way out. During this time, scavenger robots arrived. These robots killed damaged ones and took their parts to prolong their lives. Evans' robot, Tim, found a large robot in a van. Tim controlled the large robot, and as they were about to leave, Michelle asked for their help. She said there was a doctor who could help them escape if they reached him. Evans agreed, and they all climbed into the van. The van continued on its way, carrying the large robot. Michelle asked Evans where he got the robot from, and Evans shared a personal story. He explained that during the war, he was fighting against robots when both his legs were severely injured. The robot had saved his life, helping him walk again. He owed his survival to it, which is why he always kept it with him. Since robots were banned after the war, Evans kept the robot hidden. Meanwhile, we see scientist Ethan with his mother, who was losing her memory. After investigating, Ethan discovered that the memory loss was caused by his neurotechnology. Furious, he confronted his doctor, demanding to know how things went wrong. The doctor revealed that Chris had escaped, and he was a key part of the neurotechnology system. Ethan, shocked, ordered the doctor to find the robot immediately before anyone else could. The doctor also explained that Chris's consciousness had been transferred into a robot, which was causing the disruption in the neurotech system. Ethan, angry and desperate, contacted Mark, asking for his help. Ethan promised Mark a reward for capturing the robot and Michelle. Mark, already on the hunt for Michelle and the robot, was given a new Neurocaster suit with advanced technology by Ethan. Meanwhile, Michelle and the Cosmo robot, with Evans, found themselves in a dangerous area. Suddenly, they were attacked when a fridge was thrown at them, injuring the large robot. Soon, several other robots arrived, capturing them and taking them to Dr. Peanut, the leader of the Robot Alliance. Michelle was shocked to see that he was still alive. Dr. Peanut asked Michelle why she had come, as humans usually came to kill robots. She explained that she was looking for a doctor who lived in the facility. Dr. Peanut said that there might be a safe house far from there where the doctor could be found. When asked why she was searching for him, Michelle explained that her brother's consciousness was inside the Cosmo robot and that his body was with Ethan's company. Dr. Peanut, concerned about what Michelle would do with this information, expressed his worries. Afterward, Dr. Peanut sent some of his military robots to help Michelle and Evans. They left in a car designed to look like a peanut, continuing their journey. Meanwhile, Mark had entered the facility, noticing Michelle and the robot. As they reached their destination, they were surrounded by many Avengers, but before they could attack, a song played, opening a secret door. They slipped through it and found themselves in the presence of Dr. Keon, the doctor Michelle had been searching for. Before Dr. Keon could speak, Michelle demanded to know where her brother was, accusing him of lying when he said Chris was dead. Dr. Keon explained that Chris had been in a coma after the accident, and during an MRI, they discovered he was a genius with extraordinary brain power. It was his abilities that made neurotech possible. Michelle, furious, asked why they had lied about Chris's death. Dr. Keon then showed her his memory of the events, revealing that Chris's brain had been kept alive artificially and his mind was being used to operate neurotech. He said that if they hadn't kept him alive, Chris would have died. Michelle, heartbroken and angry, accused Dr. Keon of misusing her brother. Dr. Keon explained that he had tried to shut down the program once he realized that Chris was still alive inside, but Ethan had fired him from the company. Dr. Keon had transferred Chris's consciousness into the Cosmo robot, hoping that Chris could build a new life with the robots. Michelle, devastated, cried, asking why her brother needed robots when he already had a family. Evans, equally enraged by the doctor's actions, began to beat him. Just then, Mark arrived at the facility. Dr. Peanut, seeing Mark, grew fearful. Mark entered the facility, causing an explosion. In the chaos, the group tried to attack him, but his Neurocaster robot was too powerful. None of their attacks had any effect on him. Mark had brought an entire army of Neurocaster robots with him, and they immediately engaged in combat with the older robots. Amid the chaos, the doctor urgently told Michelle to take the Cosmo robot and flee. But before she could escape, Mark spotted her. He grabbed her by the hand with his robot and flew away, with even Peanut, the robot leader, severely injured. When Michelle and the Cosmo robot returned to the robot facility, they found that the Neurocaster army had killed all the robots, leaving the remaining ones in poor condition. Meanwhile, Mark had arrived at Ethan's lab, where Ethan let out a sigh of relief upon seeing the robot. He addressed it saying, "Chris, you've troubled me a lot. Don't do this again." The doctors then transferred all the consciousness back into Chris's body, essentially restoring him. Mark, standing there, was shocked by how Ethan had been using a child. Ethan explained that it was thanks to Chris's unique brain that he had been able to create neurotech, thus saving humanity. Meanwhile, Michelle, devastated, was consoled by Evans, who promised to support her. He assured her that they would expose Ethan's true intentions and save Chris. Their first priority was to escape the facility, and they sought help from a robot belonging to Peanut, which had valuable information. This robot revealed that the entire neurotech system ran off Chris's brain, and if Chris regained full consciousness, it would shut down the whole system. Michelle saw this as their chance to end the neurotech nightmare. The robot, now ready to join their mission, was reluctant at first, but Peanut, who had always wanted peace and respect, eventually agreed after being persuaded by his fellow robots. Together, they formed a plan and set off for the city where Ethan's lab was located, riding in a massive, round-shaped robot. This robot was capable of lifting cars and wreaking havoc on the lab. Inside the lab, Ethan saw the destruction unfolding and ordered Mark to use his army to stop them. Evans, controlling the large robot, faced numerous advanced neurocaster robots in the lab. Despite the battle, the massive robot was destroyed. As the robot exploded, Evans managed to jump out just in time. Then Peanut, now in control of another enormous robot, arrived on the scene, joined by the other Cosmo robots. The final battle raged on as the robots, led by Peanut, fought fiercely against the neurocaster robots. Mark, now wearing an upgraded neurocaster suit, wreaked havoc and caused explosions throughout the facility. During this chaos, Peanut confronted Mark, and in a tense moment, Mark asked him why he was still fighting this war. Peanut, with conviction, replied that freedom was worth any sacrifice, even death. If his death could bring freedom to his companions, then it was a worthy cause. Mark, deeply moved by Peanut's words, realized that he had more humanity than Ethan, who had used a child as a mere tool to achieve his goals. Mark made a decisive choice to stop supporting Ethan and instead choose to stand by the truth. Meanwhile, Michelle, equipped with the Neurocaster helmet, finally connected with her brother Chris inside the neurotech world. The two found themselves in their home, and Michelle desperately tried to convince Chris to leave, but Chris, resigned, told her he couldn't. He explained that his brain had been artificially kept alive, and it was the source of the entire neurotech system. He revealed that as long as his brain remained active, Ethan would continue to use him to destroy the world. The only way to stop the destruction was for Michelle to shut down his brain and let him die. Michelle was reluctant to accept this, but Chris reminded her of how she had once told him that he could change the world. With this final plea, Michelle hugged him, and the scene shifted back to the real world. Michelle, now fully conscious, turned off the machines keeping Chris alive, and with his death, the neurotech system was shut down. As a result, Evans' army of robots started losing control. Evans, witnessing the destruction of his most trusted robot, Tim, fell into despair. However, just as all seemed lost, he discovered a small version of Tim inside the larger robot, keeping it alive. This brought Evans a moment of relief. With the collapse of neurotech, all of the Neurocaster robots stopped functioning, and the war was essentially won. As the news spread globally that neurotech had been deactivated, Michelle was interviewed, where she revealed the dark truth about Ethan's manipulation of Chris in his brain to power the technology. As a result, Ethan was arrested, and Michelle became a symbol of resistance and truth. In the final moments, Michelle addressed the world in a moving speech. She explained how neurotech had not only defeated the robots in the war, but also rendered humanity powerless. People had become dependent on the technology, forgetting that they were capable of performing tasks without it. She emphasized that true humanity lies in our emotions, our connections, and our mutual support for one another. With her heartfelt words, Michelle inspired hope for a future where humans could rebuild and rely on each other rather than on machines. Even Evans, deeply moved by her speech, hugged her in solidarity. The movie ended with a poignant post-credit scene. Amid the wreckage of dead robots, the Cosmo robot, which had been destroyed, suddenly reactivated. This final twist left the door open for more possibilities, and the screen faded to black, signaling the end of the movie.